You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 92. Deep Purple live in Quebec with Randy, California. And coming to you from not California, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from further away from California, in Providence, or a little further from Providence, but still closer than California. John the Hulk Matola.
The Hulk. That intro is smooth as silk. You're about 1,000 miles
pretty
farther away from California than I am. So why the Hulk?
Pretty drawn out. You're a little closer. I'm the Hulk because I've been pissed lately. When haven't I been pissed?
That's true. You gained any super strength or green skin or furry eyebrows?
Well, let me see. I've been getting I've been getting close for I've been getting close. The furry eyebrows is just age, so I have that little trimmer, but that has nothing to do with anger. That's just getting older.
Your ears getting hairy too.
Thank God for those trimmers.
Yeah, right. All right, so why are you so pissed? I feel like we need to talk this through, make sure we start off today's episode on the right foot.
Well, no, it has nothing to do with you, Nate. Never mad at you.
Oh, good.
Never mad at our lovely patrons.
I think you're pissed probably for the same reason.
I'm never mad at our wonderful patrons.
No, we're probably pissed for the same reasons, which is the fact that we've been going to work every single day for the past, what's going on almost a year now through this horrendous pandemic, and nothing ever changes. Is that
could be it?
That might do it. Yeah, I'm about. I think as much as I tried to enjoy the holidays, it was kind of almost like a breaking point, like limping into January, just like, oh my God, when I feel like when this ends, like, which we've been saying forever, which who knows when the actual end will be. It's not going to be like somebody flips a switch and it's over, but I feel like everybody,
right,
like all the essential workers like us, and way more so in like hospitals and everything, I think everyone needs to get like 2 months off of work paid and just be like, take it, just relax. I just need like some decompression time, everybody does. Even, my wife's been home with the kids, and it's just like, she hasn't spent more than like an hour away from them in the better part of a year. It's insane. It's just, it's
every mother's dream.
Yeah. It's never ending for everybody. The kids are going crazy. We're going crazy. Everybody at work's going crazy. My friends that are working from home are going crazy, but I tell them not to tell me about it because it sounds great. Like, oh, I'm at home and I'm doing this. I'm like, oh yeah, it sounds terrible.
Yeah, I mean, we know that it's one of those things where there's no definitive ending point. Like, oh, it'll be done on like, June 2nd, 2021 or some watch. That'll be my prediction. But
the actual day,
but as this whole thing comes to a close, travel opens back up or whatever, I got enough PTO to take like 3 months off. I won't do that all at once, but I'll definitely take like 3 weeks.
Yep. Yeah. As soon as I can, I'll take some time off, because I basically took no time off last year. I took a week off last year. Right. So I'm ready to, I might even just take maybe next month, take a week off to just stay home. I was gonna say unwind, but it won't be unwinding because I'll be staying home and doing schooling with the kids, so it's gonna be just harrowing as anything. But just some time to just be away from work for a little bit, and then when this all kind of comes to a close, maybe do our usually what's supposed to be our biannual trip to Rhode Island will be our triannual, hopefully, if I can do it this year. And then come visit you and maybe have a Deep Purple meetup in the Rhode Island area. That would be fun. Podcast meetup.
Hey, that would be great.
Yeah, but
I'll actually get to see you in person after a couple of years of doing this podcast.
You'll see you in person for the first time since 2002. It's been almost 20 years, right? Since we were actually in the same room.
That's crazy. Together. We have, I know, right? We've done this show for almost 2 years together, and you and I have both hung out with people listeners of the show before we've seen each other in person.
Yep, I've seen Steve Seaborg way more recently than I've seen you. But there you have it.
Well, I know what you mean. So, but yeah, exactly. Well, then good. Then we can hey, that's great. We can take pictures of ourselves in front of all these Rhode Island landmarks together.
Yeah, exactly. What is that terrible war memorial that I was like, oh, that's a funny name, and then you told me what it was, and I was like, oh, sorry. But anyway, here we are. Speaking of being thankful for our wonderful patrons and meeting them, and I'd like to meet some of you this summer if things turn around and we can do it. Hopefully, getting vaccinated within the next month or so myself. I don't know when the family will, but anyway, thanks to those wonderful patrons. If you want to support the show, you too can become a patron. For just $1 a month, you can help support the show. We'd really, really appreciate it. And coming at you at the $50 Soldier of Fortune tier, we've got John Tremontinus. At the $20 Shades of Deep Pockets tier, we have Ryan M. and Gerald Kelly. At the $15 Highball Shooter tier, we have Alan Begg. Ain't too proud to beg. Oh my goodness, I messed it up. Sorry, Alan. At the Turn It Up to $11 tier, we have Frank Thielgard Mortensen, Clay Wambacher, Mickelstein. At the $10 Someone Came tier, we have Steve Seaborg of NameOnAnything.com and AllTheWorld'sStage.net and Jeff Bryce. At the episode $6.66 tier, we have Richard Fusey. At the $5.99 Nice Price tier, we have Fielding Fowler. At the $5 Moneylender tier, we have Greg Sealby, John Convery, Arthur Smith, German Heindel, Adrian Hernandez, Kenny Wymore, Jesper Alman, and Oleksiy the Perfect Stranger Slipakov. At the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, Peter Gardot, Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, Anton Glaving, Will Porter, and Andrew Meyer. And at the $1 made-up name tier, L's Murders, Spacey Noodles, The Revolting Leaky Mausoleum, Michael Vader, Stephen Somerville, The Concerto 1999 Fanatic, and Raf Calf. Thank you to all those wonderful, wonderful patrons. And speaking of Jeff Bryce, I just opened our podcast review and check it out. 5 stars. Oh, do I normally have a thing I do for that? Was it what do we do for that? Right. We'll do that.
There we go.
5 stars coming from Bryce Heim himself.
We got to get some better sound effects.
Better than that?
5 stars.
A very soft.
It's like clapping.
A golf. It's like a golf clap. You don't want to scare the birds. The review is 5 stars. Here's Johnny and Nate. These guys are like the Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon first of the podcast world. And I mean that as a great compliment. Very entertaining show. That's funny because Jeff, thank you so much for the review. And I just read it now, and right before the show, we were making the John and Ed McMahon reference.
Yeah.
to an upcoming interview.
We were just talking about how if right, that I was gonna what am I gonna do? And you'll just be. Nate goes, you'll just be the Ed McMahon,
Yeah, so I'm the Johnny, in the interview scenario. I'm John and you're Ed. So there you go. So yeah,
and I just.
So we might have another interview coming, and in a couple of days. So yeah, John's gonna be the Ed McMahon character. You are correct, sir. I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
Thanks. So was that the whole review?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Was that his whole review?
That was the whole review. Yep. Yeah. So
nice.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We really appreciate that. thanks to our brothers at the Deep Dive Podcast Network, Riot Sabbath Bloody Podcast, The Simple Man of Skinner Reconsidered, Terry T-Bone Matthew back at you with T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the other side, his new show. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate his support of the show. And I've got a T-Bone's Prime Cuts t-shirt. I got to take a picture and send it over to him. I got one for Christmas. So Paul, David, and Joe at In the Lap of the Pods, and Scott at the Magicians Podcast. Happy days. Thank you very much to all of you guys. And then Jörg Planer, of course, our patron saint and archivist. We really appreciate your help. And also, our Etsy store is still open. So if you want some t-shirts, I don't know if you can see it on the camera there behind me. We got a couple of those hoodies left, t-shirts. We've got mugs. Where's the mug?
And whoever's on the video feed, wait a minute.
There Johnny's
watching YouTube.
There you go. John's wearing the hoodie right there.
There we go. I'm wearing the hoodie. This is my favorite hoodie to wear around the house.
Super
I love
comfortable.
It's actually warm too. I mean, not to go outside, but if I'm like laying around the house or whatever, I mean, it's a soft, like lightweight t-shirt material, but it's actually like really, because this is, I can't remember whatever size this is. It's like a large or something. So it's like nice and like, it's nice and big on me. It's comfortable, but it's just like, just hanging around the house. If you got like the heat on or whatever, it's like, you're not cold in it.
Yeah, Steve asked me if I wanted to do like a heavyweight or a lightweight hoodie. And I was like, I didn't really know what the difference was. So I said lightweight, thinking it would be like this other hoodie I have, like not a super, super, super heavy one. Yeah. And then that came in and I was like, oh, this is lighter than I thought. And then I tried it on and I'm like, oh, this is way better than I thought I was getting. Like it's like wearing a really cozy t-shirt. It's
exactly,
great.
Yeah.
I wish I had gotten more of them. So if you want one, you better get in on it soon. So some comments and stuff. We already gave the great review of the show from Bryceheim. Really appreciate it. And speaking of Bryceheim, he's been sending me all of this great stuff, which I can share with you. And this week, man, I got so many great stuff. He's got all this great merchandise. So let's you know what, we did Roger Glover's Mask, so he's got all of this stuff from the Mask album. So let's check it out. So this is some of it's Mask related and some of it's just Roger Glover related. So here's a episode 6 in Wainwright's Gentleman album that he has, like a mono album. This thing's like pretty crazy. It's a 12 this is, where is it? Roger Glover. No. Okay, I can't find the information for that one, so apologies. There's the Mask. This is a promo single for the Mask. It's just like a really simple black and white cover. There's a copy of his Mask record. He's got this awesome.
Notice that they say the Mask when we were talking about it.
Yeah, just like we talked about. It's like it's a very schizophrenic album. It's like sometimes it's Mask, sometimes it's the Mask. They never really know. But yeah, Jeff lives in apparently like a Deep Purple museum and archive. Like everything we discuss, he's been like, as he's listening to episodes, he's like, oh, I listened to this episode and here's a bunch of memorabilia I have from that album. It's pretty incredible. He's got this amazing headshot of Roger looking almost like looks like Rambo in that picture. He's got a headband on.
Rambo Glover. Oh yeah, that is a cool pick.
This is the single for Fake It, the Mask and Fake It. He's got another copy, a West German pressing of the Mask, where they use the kind of that like Max Headroom-y background that is normally on the backside of the album. Yeah. Another awesome, the Rambo picture of Roger Glover on the cover of the album. It's a UK single, it looks like, Forgetting Stranger. Another headshot. And then he's got this great press release sort of thing. Roger Glover. A lot of people are going to be surprised by Roger Glover's Mask, his new solo LP on 21 Polygram Records. So he's got this great little write-up about the album, but he's just got, he seems to just have everything. So this is some really incredible stuff. He's like rivaling Jörg Planer as far as like memorabilia and stuff this guy has. He seems to have everything.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jeff, for continuing to send us all this great stuff. I really appreciate it. And I told him we'd probably be working some of this stuff into some of the shows, and maybe if he gives me the okay, I can post some of these pictures on the show notes, and you can check them out on our episode, because there's some really good stuff there. Okay, moving along, we've got. Oops. Moving along, we have another email from Per Sorensen. Wrote me this email just a couple of days ago, or actually, it might have been today. It was about our coverage of the Denmark show. He says, "Thanks for a great site. Writing from Denmark. I saw the following show. He saw the following show on that tour. So the tour date they played after the Copenhagen show that we reviewed in Odense, and then on that tour a year later in February of '73, he also saw them at the same place. So he would have been like the day after the Lars Ulrich saw them. He would have seen them again." So he says, "Great memories. The KB Holland would have seated about 4,000 in the audience. Other venues were about 3,000, 3,500. We were allowed to be close, no chairs, but had a lot of fun. Ages between 14 and 18. And yes, we could smoke." KB Holland was a sports arena, and that's why the audience is everywhere, front and back. "I saw them in KB Holland whenever they came.
3 to 4 grand. That's wow.
Yeah, it's a nice, good size. When I saw them, whenever they came in, and last time was 2009. They have since done bigger venues in Copenhagen, indoors and especially outdoors." He saw Ian Gillan with Black Sabbath in KB Holland as a guest in 1989, doing the encores of Smoke on the Water and Paranoid. And he talks about how the 72 show that we covered was broadcast by the Denmark radio. And he said it was shown prior to the 73 tour. So yeah, he's got some great stuff. I'll post the email stuff in the show notes, but thank you, Per, for writing in. That's really awesome. And then Jorg writes about our Uriah Heep episode. He says, "You asked for more connections. John Lawton claimed too that he was asked to join Deep Purple in 1973. And more of a Whitesnake and Uriah Heep connection. Mickey Moody did a number of shows with Uriah Heep back in 2010. So there you go. Mickey Moody and his hat did some shows. It's awesome."
His hat.
Mickey Moody. Yeah, one of the accounts I follow, I can't remember if it's on Twitter or Instagram. It's just called Mickey. Because years ago when I was setting up the Twitter account, I was like, oh, let me see if I can find all the people. Mickey Moody doesn't have a Twitter account, but there's an account called Mickey Moody's Hat. And I followed it, but I don't think it ever posts anything, but it's, it's fun to follow.
You're talking. I don't think the hat posts anything. It's fine.
The hat doesn't post that much, but yeah, the little avatar is like a picture of Mickey Moody's hat. It's great.
I love it. They should have like that just makes me think they should have like a Twitter account, Ritchie Blackmore's hat.
I know Ritchie Blackmore's hat would have a lot more to say. But that we got to get into today's episode. So some brief history here. So we've talked about this show a bunch on this show, where Randy California subbed in for one show for Ritchie Blackmore. So more recently, December 22nd of 2020, just a few weeks ago, a video was posted on YouTube, and it was called Deep Purple, 6 Avril 1972, Quebec plus Randy California Blind Man. And within an hour of it being posted, I get a message from Jorg saying, "Real or fake?" And I see the title, and I say, well, this is crazy. Like, this show is almost 50 years ago, and there's never been any audio of this released anywhere ever. So I was like, well, this has got to be fake. And I listened to it, and my immediate take was like, this doesn't sound fake at all. It's like, I said, if this, when I was listening to it, I was like, if this is fake audio, then it's got to be one of the most well done hoaxes that I've ever seen. The guy who posted it was named Robert LaFontaine, a very Quebecois sort of name. Posted in French, and the video starts off with, I think, even Ian Gillan talking about, like how he doesn't speak much French, and immediately there were people saying, oh no, it's a fake, and that doesn't sound like Ian Gillan, and this and that. but I'm usually really skeptical about that sort of thing. But as soon as I heard it, I said, it seems like there's really something here. So, immediately it was for one thing, it sounds like Deep Purple performing When a Blind Man Cries, and we all know they never performed that with Ritchie ever. So there's only one time that they ever performed it prior to Ritchie prior to Ritchie leaving in the 90s. And that was at this show in Quebec, where we just know from kind of folklore that they performed the show because Ritchie was gone, and they said, "Oh well, we can play it now because Ritchie's not here and he hates that song." Because their long-standing thing was that they didn't play songs that unless they all kind of unanimously agreed that they wanted to play those songs. So, a little bit after that, he followed up on December 30th. It was kind of like a teaser. On December 30th, he posted the first hour of the show, like the full audio. And it was just like, here's the entire show. And followed that up with the next day on the 31st, on New Year's Eve, with the second part of the show. And that was it. Like, it's all out there. He's got some comments on there, and you can I'll have all the links in the show notes, but this is it. And that's what we're going to listen to today. I've listened to bits and pieces of it, but haven't listened to the entire recording. So we're going to just kind of sit here today and listen to this piece of history, which is basically Ritchie got sick with hepatitis. They brought in Randy California to be a guest guitar player for this one show. And then after that, they canceled the rest of the tour. So we're going to hear a very, very interesting piece of Deep Purple history. Some of you will have already heard it on YouTube. Some of you might be hearing it for the first time, but this is it.
So there's no real verification on if it's real or not. We're just assuming that it is.
The consensus seems to be that, like, yes, this is the real thing. Like, there's just doesn't seem to be any anybody saying anything other than that this is the real deal. So,
all right, well, let's get into it and give our hot take on it.
And if it comes to light like a couple days after we record this that it's fake, then you can just laugh at how stupid we are this whole time. But like I said, if this is a fake, then it's of historical significance that they were able to fake this well. Like, it's pretty like I said, it's a pretty impressive specimen of what this show would have been at the time. So I mean, it's pretty incredible. So without further ado, here we go. Deep Purple live in Quebec City with Randy California. There should be audio. Oh, there we go. So it sounds like somebody introducing them in French. Say catfish?
Catfish.
We're going to need Ian DeRosier to translate what that guy said. I can make out some words, but my French is pretty poor. Those words were Deep Purple.
So we don't know anything about this recording except that it surfaced, like where it may have come from, or
Robert LaFontaine is the man who posted this. And here's Ian.
Oh, that's Ian.
For sure, right? So he's basically saying that this is the third time they were supposed to play Quebec. Both other times something happened. And then this time Ritchie got sick, so he's explaining to the audience that they've got a guest guitarist to fill in because they didn't want to blow off Quebec City a third time.
All right, well that makes a lot of sense. Like the story behind why they went on with him is they didn't want to cancel a third time.
Right.
On these poor people.
So yeah, so the story is once Randy starts tuning up.
What is it again? 73?
72. So this would have been a month after the Copenhagen show. So he's saying the same story that we heard him tell at Denmark about Strange Kind of Woman, their opener. So, Robert LaFontaine says, this is an extremely rare audio recording of a Deep Purple show with Randy California. I recorded it all in stereo. Sadly, at the encore, someone knocked down one mic and I stopped recording, so no Lucille. The recording is a bit muddy at times because people who were holding the mics didn't keep them horizontal, but upward facing at the metal roof.
So he recorded it. He says that he recorded it himself.
Yep.
He just wasn't in possession of this recording from somewhere else.
No, he's the one that recorded it. He says, years later, I sent this recording to Randy and we chatted about music, his story, etc. He seemed to want to remix the show. In the video, there are many unreleased gems archives. The set list was always wrong on a lot of websites. Here's the real set list for this rare show. And then he goes into the set list, which we'll hear it anyway, so.
I don't know. I feel like already I can tell that it is a real Deep Purple show. Like you can tell just coming off of listening to Denmark 72. It's like it even though it's not a great quality, it's like you can tell that it's them from that time period.
And the bits and pieces I've heard, and when they go into jams, it sounds like a different band because you don't have that dynamic of Ritchie. You've got Randy, who's another great guitar player, but playing in a very different way.
Right. Wow. First impression I get is that it almost sounds like Jimi Hendrix joined Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Like his style, you know? But I mean, he played with Hendrix, so that doesn't really surprise me.
He's using that wah, and Ritchie wasn't a big wah guy. So according to my show notes or my tour notes here, this would have been the first ever time they played Quebec City, and then they played it again in November, 1972, November of 1972, with Elf and John Sebastian, and then they didn't play it again until Mark II reformed in 1985. And all three times at the Colisée de Quebec. But like I said, there were a lot of detractors early on that were saying that no, this is fake. But I mean, I can't conceive of. I am 100% in that this is real, because I can't imagine what else this could be. With all the people speaking French. I mean, the amount of detail you would have had to go through to get this out there. Like, how would you have stripped out Ritchie's guitar and put in someone who's clearly not Ritchie Blackmore? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, I think that when something like this, as you pointed out before, is like of historical significance to the band, it's like one of the holy grails, like, oh, this has never been released, and then all of a sudden it just shows up.
Yeah,
of course people are naturally going to be skeptical, like, oh, it couldn't have been that easy that it just shows up on YouTube one day.
I mean, it was insane when it popped up, and when Jorg sent it to me, I was just like, there's no way. Like, all of a sudden, after 50 years, nobody ever knew there was a recording of this. How is this possible? And then boom, it just drops on everybody, and it's the real deal. Like, it's crazy. But it's an interesting set list that they do too, because it includes, well, you'll hear next they do Into the Fire, and then they do When a Blind Man Cries, which they never did before.
They're gonna do the call and response?
Now let's see. I mean, you gotta hand it to
I feel like they're
just
doing whatever.
To just jump in and do one show like that is just crazy.
Yeah. I think it's kind of fun. That it's just kind of like, all right, let's just, go from like the completely rehearsed script and just kind of like have fun with it.
Yep.
Especially like this part. I mean, Ritchie and Ian probably have had to work out that whole part in rehearsals, and some of it was spontaneous in their natural chemistry, but to jump in with another guitar player and do any of that is probably not easy.
Right. We as we talked about before, I mean, this is still before Machine Head was even released. He's going crazy. But the tour only lasted 4 days, and Blackmore came down with hepatitis, and they were going to substitute in Al Cooper. And Cooper kind of had like a nervous breakdown, basically, and California was just the next guy in line, and he stepped up and did it just the one show.
Oh, that's great.
It sounds like John fell on the keyboard at the end there. Not bad, right?
Yeah.
So
really good.
Not only they tried to get Cooper, he had a nervous breakdown. They ended up getting Randy in California. He steps in, and then right as they're about to go to the show, Air Canada went on strike, so they had a really hard time getting to the show.
From a long time ago.
Really old. It's from 2 years ago with our Deep Purple in Rock album. You wonder how much of the... Well, it's interesting that they did like When a Blind Man Cries, and you just wonder how much of it was based on they had to do the songs that Randy knew. I mean, he obviously had to have been familiar with the band.
Oh, yeah. Have you tried to get in touch with the fan that released this?
I did, but I haven't heard anything back.
Really be interesting to hear his take on this, aside from, what he wrote when, on releasing it,
I got the impression from his posting on YouTube that he's pretty new to the whole thing, because I think he only had a few subscribers before he even posted this. So I put my email address in. I said, hey, we'd love to talk to you, but I never heard anything back. So this, thanks to the amazing Ian DeRosier, I sent him this, and he translated this article. This is basically an interview with John Lord. So it says, after the concert, the wheel keeps spinning for Deep Purple. The band took a plane for New York the same night, and John Lord harassed the road manager that gave us 10 minutes of his precious time. Quite happy by the reaction of the Quebec crowd, Lord is surprised to learn that some fans blame the new direction of the band on recent albums. He said that the beginning of their career, Deep Purple suffered from the studio sickness. The band didn't really know what to do, and when it looked at the precise direction from the outside, it was in fact the result of a quasi-improvisation where Lord's classical formation took on an important place. Listen to this guitar solo here.
Really interesting to hear Deep Purple in their prime with like a different guitar player.
Yeah, that's right. Like right here, like listening to this, if you just played me this out of the blue, I don't even know if I'd identify it as Deep Purple.
It's funny because like, what is it, like 25 years later, you'd have the same scenario but with Steve Morse.
Mm-hmm. Or Joe Satriani even before that, right? Stepping in.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, this is even more. I mean, this is like, what did you say, a month after the concert that we saw? And it's like, So it's like that same lineup, that same energy, that same like era. And it's just like, you throw in a different guitar player and like the whole dynamic changes. Like, I literally feel like it's more of a...
Your Hendrix comparison is spot on.
It does. It sounds like... Yeah, really, it sounds like Hendrix is playing with them.
Yeah, if you had played me a snippet of that little instrumental section, I never would have identified it as being Into the Fire, I would have said, I don't know, is this like an unreleased Hendrix bootleg or something? Like, I could easily see that, because you can't really make out the organ too much in that spot, so it almost sounds like the Experience or something.
And like I said, I'm like, I don't know too much about California's style, other than that he did play with Hendrix like in the early days, and then some of the other stuff that he did. What was this other band, Spirit?
Yeah, I think we talked about this before. We couldn't remember if it's Spirit or Mountain. We always get them confused, but I think it's Spirit.
No, right? I think it was Spirit, but I mean, I don't know anything about that, but just like, seeing is that he was influenced by Hendrix at like a young age, like I think it was like 15 or something. It would make sense that he came from that school of playing, but it's interesting because, like, I mean, Ritchie had some of that too, but I mean, it was his, you know what I mean? His had more of like a unique or classical flavor to it, whereas it's like, you can tell Randy California style is more straight ahead, like blues, rock from that era.
And wasn't it Hendrix that gave him the name Randy California?
Yeah.
I think we had talked about that before, right? Like, he was playing with two Randys. One of them was from Nebraska or something, and the other one was Texas, from California, so he called him Randy Nebraska and Randy California. Or probably wasn't Nebraska, but it was somewhere like that.
I think it was Texas.
Texas. Okay, Randy Texas and Randy California. I don't know, because the first time I heard Randy California, the name, I kind of thought it just sounded really silly. But it's kind of a cool story how it came about. Yes, you are right. Randy, Texas. That makes a lot. That sounds a lot cooler than Randy, Nebraska. No offense, Randy, Nebraska. No offense, Nebraska. We love all of our Nebraskan listener.
Listener.
That might be generous.
We're gonna call you Randy Lincoln, Nebraska.
Here we go. Child in Time. The crowd's going wild.
Oh wow, this will be interesting. I feel like this will be really interesting.
Now, like, Lord, basically when I was talking about how, like, the Air Canada went on strike, Ritchie got hepatitis, they only got 4 days in, all this stuff. So John Lord's quote is, Randy was brilliant, God bless him, but everything had gotten to be such a bitch, we had to go home. We just couldn't take it any longer. Basically, this tour was doomed from the start, and that's why they just packed up after this. Ian Paice says, our morale was really low when we got back home. We had developed lots of internal problems because we had become stagnant. We had been forced to stop the momentum, and of course, our tempers started getting short. And it's funny that in this article that Ian DeRosier translated, he starts telling me about, or he starts saying, where does he say it? About the fans talking about the band's new direction. It's like even before Machine Head came out, the fans are like, oh, the band's going in a new direction. That sort of nonsense never stops.
Yeah, wait till they see what's in store a few years from now.
Yeah, exactly. You think this is a new direction. Listen to his little swells on the guitar there.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, if anything else, I mean, it's early in the show.
I'm enjoying that.
I mean, Randy California is really impressing me so far.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with his performance. Like, he's adding some really cool stuff to these songs.
When we talk about our what ifs, in one of our what if episodes, what if Randy California had come in to replace Blackmore in '93? It'd be interesting. Probably would have been short-lived, unfortunately, because he died in '97. But
yeah.
And the funny thing is, this buried bootleg sounds, you know, without any sort of after effects or anything put on it, or I haven't done anything to it EQ wise or anything. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we can hear it.
I mean, in the realm of bootlegs, it's not crazy. And, you know, maybe for the audio podcast, I'll do a little EQing on it just to make it a little more clear, like I did with the Tommy Bolin one. Hear what he does here for the guitar. I mean, he's hanging really well with them. So in this interview with John Lord, he says that this is kind of the point where they were starting to put things like Gemini Suite and the Concerto kind of onto the back seat and starting to have those be more solo output things. So there was still, I guess, the view from the media that they were doing these experimental classical things because it was in the pretty recent past.
Well, I mean, think about it, right? I mean, it's like if you had somebody releasing music now, like this year, then, you think back to like 2018, 2019 and be like, oh, only back then they were doing this weird experimental stuff. I mean, it's really not that long ago.
Right.
For being in recent memory. So if you're talking about like 69, 70, and they're in 72, it's like, it's really, it's still going to be like in the front of everybody's conscious. Like if you told me, I don't know, such and such an artist went in one direction and went in another one from like 2018, I would just be like, it'd take a little convincing for me to just be like, all right, I'll try.
Yeah. So this article says the simple stories found in Deep Purple's lyrics translate in a good way, according to Lord, the band Reality. John Lord doesn't want to be seen as a demigod like some other musicians. His only responsibility on stage is to give the public what they paid for, music and good times. People often interpret lyrics in a way to find meanings or messages, and in this way, it's with prejudice that the band was taxed as speed freaks. Up until recently, the word speed in England did not mean amphetamine. And it's with great surprise that the band found that some saw in Speed King a drug song that contributed to making it a hit. And as we know, it was just named after a laundromat.
I never thought of that.
Yeah, neither did I.
Yeah. Speed King, I never thought of that interpretation, but it makes sense.
It's like, no, man, we just named it after a laundromat called Speed Queen.
And that is one of the best things about John Lord, too, you got from that article, is that he was really, like, that's why everybody loved him, because he wasn't, like, one of those, like, I mean, come on, he was on the level where, like, if he wanted to, he could just be like, I am John Lord, lick my boots, and you would, because that's how great he was, but he wasn't. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, just watch any performance by him. He's amazing. Mm. Look at any of the stuff he's composed. He's amazing, and he was just so humble about it.
So Lord tells that drug taking is rare in English bands. The members of English groups consider themselves more like musicians than members of a big family of smokers. And this priority for the music is an element that helped make the English band to be considered the best. We could not learn more. The wheel keeps on turning. There you go. It's a pretty interesting article. And I'll put And once again, huge thank you to Ian DeRosier for cranking out a nice translation of this. I'll get it in the show notes. And they review the concert.
Randy California doing is that him doing volume swells? Or is that John Lord? It's hard to tell.
I still can't tell. I could go either way. I think it's John Lord. Now he's got to do some crazy whammy bar thing and I'm proven wrong.
Yeah, I feel like it's, I think from what we've heard, it's probably not.
Randy California.
Just feel like from what we've heard so far, it's not his style to do that.
They got like a really fast tempo going right now for this.
You notice the guitar wasn't playing along with that, probably because he's
like, "I'll leave you to this
he
one."
hadn't learned that part.
Well, what I've read about this is that Randy kind of laid back and let John take a few more of the solos than would normally happen at a show. But so far, I mean, it seems like he's really keeping pace with the normal set. But
yeah, but in a song like this, it makes sense that we'd have John Lord and the rest of the band kind of take over, because it's pretty tall order to fill on short notice.
Right. They're killing everyone. For some reason, it always amuses me when he says that. Oh, they're killing everyone.
They're killing everyone. Bullets usually do, my friend. Really like the bends that he's doing on the guitar in the verse. It's a really cool take on it.
I really that.
Like, that would have been cool for Gillan to throw into his Ian Gillan band, like the Child in Time debut album version.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably sacrilege, but I kind of like it better than the original. Like, as far
I think it's like we've heard this song so many times that to
nice
hear like a new version or a new take on it, it's like, I think that's why we're excited about it. I mean, like 30 years of us listening to Child in Time pretty much the same way. And you get to hear a new take on it with Mark II. It's pretty cool.
Oh, here he goes. Can't really make him out though with this mix. I like he does it a little different every show. If you see a man that's a smaller man than you, but you are a bigger man, remember that you are not figuratively bigger than that smaller man. It's, okay, Ian. Okay. It's interesting that he said he was talking to Randy California about doing a mix of it. That leads you to believe that, like, did he do a multi-track recording of this? I mean, that seems like it would be very unlikely. He wouldn't have been plugged into the board, I don't think. But there are a lot of questions that come up about this recording. Very hard to make that out. I think he's saying it's a song from our last album. Oh, yes. So, based on something little Ian does on the drums, so we know what song that is.
Your favorite.
My favorite. But as we've established, I do like the live version because it's much shorter. So we've... So Robert LaFontaine had some troubles getting this video uploaded. So, when it was originally posted, it got posted, but it had no audio. Like, I was following his subscription, so the second he posted it, I like reposted it on Twitter, and I was getting it out there. And the first time he posted it, I immediately posted it on Twitter, and then everyone's like, it's got no audio. So it was just like the video section. So it like got deleted, and then yeah, like there was like an hour-long pause, and everyone's like, "Where's the video?" And everyone's like asking me like I did the video. I'm like, I'm just posting what's on YouTube. So yeah, a few little hiccups, but eventually got these two parts of the show posted. So he's talking about how at some points the audio goes muddy because he had these two microphones pointed towards the show, and I guess the people he was with like kind of let the microphones fall back, so they were pointed towards the ceiling, which would not have provided the world's best sound recording. So it sounds like we're in one of those muddy periods now. Just in time for the drum solo. And on this article that Ian translated, so Ian Gillan is Big Ian. Ian Paice is Little Ian. What should Ian de Rosier be? French Ian?
Medium Ian?
Medium Ian. Yeah, we'll call him Medium Ian. He goes by the Prog Frog or the Rock Frog on Twitter, but we'll call him Medium Ian. So this goes into a John Lord... We said the John Ward interview, but then it goes into a concert review. It says Deep Purple finally gave the concert in Quebec City after waiting for 8 months. A couple of snowstorms and lots of work. That's it. Deep Purple comes up on stage. Ian Gillan gets in front and tells that Ritchie Blackmore is sick and will be replaced by Randy California, but nobody listens. People whistle, people scream. They are finally here. So I guess people were really excited that they were finally playing in Quebec City. The band starts with Strange Kind of Woman. The sound is perfect, powerful, and precise, but the musicians look hesitant. We will understand why later after the concert when we learn that California had only had 2 days to rehearse with the band. But after Into the Fire, an old hit 2 years ago, we witness a high class of rockers and the guitar player is not here to take it easy. Gillan announces Child in Time, one of the most beautiful Deep Purple songs. A quiet beginning on the organ and the band launches itself into a fast boogie. Hard to describe, but those who already heard a good guitar solo played on a Strat going through 2 Marshall amps at 400 watts know. A police officer inside the Colisée, it's the old hockey rink for the Quebec Nordiques, says to a woman watching the show, "It's catchy, I want to dance." It's making the police officer want to dance. Child in Time? Child in Time,
maybe the middle section.
No, I guess, yeah, maybe kind of like do one of those like psychedelic dances like that girl was doing at the Denmark show. Like reaching for spaghetti.
Reaching for things that aren't there. Smoke a little more wacky tobacco there, missy.
And this coincides perfectly with the song we're listening to. Next, the mule, Roger Glover, bass, and Ian Paice, drums, go crazy while John Lord gets some violin sounds from his organ. Ian Paice stays on stage alone and does a drum solo that if he doesn't dazzle by the complexity, surprised by his rapidity and energy. Paice doesn't stop there and continues full speed into Lazy, while Glover gives a demonstration of the way bass should serve hard rock. A pretty positive review so far.
Yeah.
It's kind of going crazy on the hi-hats right now, probably. Then it says Roger Glover is, with Tim Bogert, and then in parentheses, Cactus, one of the best rock bassists that played here. So probably, I've heard of that band Cactus before. Have you heard of Cactus? I don't know anything about them, but
no, I don't think I have.
It's an American band by former Vanilla Fudge bassist Tim Bogert and drummer Carmen Appice, I forget which one he is. So, and there's just one single line that says John Lord had some problems with his organ. I don't know. Maybe we haven't gotten to that part yet. There's also another article on here that Ian DeRosier translated, but we'll wait until that one gets back on the screen again. Yeah, I'm looking through the YouTube video. There's really nobody saying, "Oh, this is a fake," which obviously by this point we know it's not. But
yeah,
it's interesting that they.
I mean, I guess if you had just heard one clip of like when a blind man cries, then yeah, okay. But
yeah,
I mean, if you're hearing the whole concert, it's pretty obvious that it's not.
Right, because you could take like a version that they did with Satriani or or Morse, but I mean, even then it would be pretty obvious it was one of them. And you could EQ it and, you know, put in some old crowd noises, make it muddy, put some tape effect on it, and try to pretend like it's fake, but it'd be an awful lot of work. And
I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, plenty of people would do it. I mean, now this first part of this video on YouTube has less than 3,000 views, so it's not like you're gonna do it for this great, you know, it's like, oh my god, I'm gonna fool everyone and get all these views. Even this actual authentic concert, less than 3,000 views in a few weeks.
I feel like, you know, you could probably dispute a lot of things, like the date, the venue. I mean, okay, that's legit, but I mean, you know, I mean, I would put money on this was like that same like 72 version of the band. Like this was not recorded like in the 90s or
right,
you know, any of that stuff. I mean, could it have been messed with? Yeah, but I don't know. I doubt it.
Well, somebody is asking why they didn't play Highway Star, and then somebody's postulating that it's because Randy didn't have enough time to learn it and all this. But I mean, I think the simple fact might have been just that Highway Star wasn't a solid part of their set yet. Like I said, Machine Head hadn't even been released yet by this point. You know, I'm sorry. Machine Head would have just been released a couple of weeks before this. So it was released between the Denmark show and this show, this show was about 5 weeks after the Denmark show. There's a little bit of a audio interference here in between songs. Might have had to change the reels or something.
Here's another new one. This one is
another new one.
Sound is a lot better.
Which we got out. I think it's
reposition those mics. There's a lot more tape hiss, but it's definitely a little clearer.
Yeah, a lot louder.
right. This one is out of the album we got in the shops this week. The album is called Machine Head. It's our new one. This particular song. This particular song is a sort of.
Imagine that you're at a Deep Purple show and they're introducing their new song, Lazy.
And Richie's not playing it. Richie's not even there.
So here's where we might see John Lord introing it rather than Ritchie. Randy California's real name was Randy Craig Wolf, which is actually a pretty cool name.
Yeah, he could have gone with that and it still would have been a cool rock and roll name.
You know, when they formed Spirit, he would have only been 16 years old. Crazy.
It is.
You really hear the stereo effect here, which you wouldn't expect a bootleg record in this way to be recorded in stereo, but Classic John Lord riff in there. Playing the little French national anthem there. They're like, "Whoa, we know that one." I wonder if that song has any extra significance in Quebec. Oh, I mean, other than the fact that they identify more with French end of things than the English. Love John Lord. He'd just be like wherever he is, they're just like, oh, like we saw him just working that like little "We wish you a Merry Christmas" because it was probably around Christmas time. He's just like, where are we? They speak French here. I'll just bust into the French national anthem. Why not?
He's John Lord. He's good that way.
He's like, I've seen Ritchie do this enough time. I know how to go through these dynamics. I know what he's doing.
I mean, come on, like, you had a show back then that's John Lord heavy. Who's gonna complain?
Yeah, right. And it honestly hasn't been that John Lord heavy. I mean, there's been plenty of guitar.
Yeah. But I mean, some of these, like this section, like Child in Time, I mean, it was pretty. John Lord carried a big. Yeah. But I mean, like I said, who's bitching and moaning about that? Oh, too much John Lord. What a hack.
This is terrible.
Boo, turn it off. Yeah, I don't think so.
At this point, it barely something. Maybe he's just strumming along some chords. And here's the article again. The un remplacement or un remplaçant à Quebec. So this says a substitute in Quebec. On April the 6th, 1972, Deep Purple stopped in Quebec City with a singular formation. This night, instead of Ritchie Blackmore on the guitar, the crowd saw Randy California getting up on stage. Blackmore was sick with hepatitis, and the band felt they had a chance to impose themselves in this part territory, and they tried to finish the tour even with a substitute. At the time, Randy California's band Spirit was popular, so we approached him, tells Roger Glover. I think we rehearsed for just a couple of hours before getting on stage. He was a good guy, but as talented as he was, it was not the same thing to do to pursue the tour, so we stopped. It pushed back our chances to be recognized in America for 6 months or a year. The sleeve notes of the original release credit Liam Janaki as playing drums and percussion, while the 1993 release, Gillan, the Japanese album, instead credits Pete Barnacle. Oh, you know what? I think that's notes from an upcoming episode. Oops. I was like, what? Why are you being involved? For all you listening, might be able to figure out what our next episode is. That's what we call an Easter egg. So in this review, they seem to skip right over lazy. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, I read that part already. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Glover demonstration of the way bass should serve hard rock.
I like that. Should serve hard rock.
Serve hard rock. And Robert LaFontaine, if you're listening, you sound like you grew up in the same town as I did. There was a little slice of Quebec in northern Rhode Island, but we would love to talk to you more about this show.
Yeah, have your people call my people.
Yeah, or call Ian DeRosier, because if you're not feeling comfortable enough in French, I'll volunteer Ian, our patron Ian, to translate. He doesn't mind. If he does, I'll just ask my wife to translate. Although Ian DeRosier will have to come and get our kids to bed. Ian, if you don't want to do the translation, just come get our kids to bed and my wife will translate. It's funny the way that they had talked about the show over the years about how it just wasn't Ritchie and we didn't want to continue on. I guess the end result of the show seems way higher quality than I would have expected from those quotes. It sounds like it was a really good show.
Yeah.
But then also hearing about all the other grief they were going through, and they were just probably, and just nothing can go right. They were probably just like, this is terrible. And this must have been awful for them. When we talk about repeatedly on the show about how come they didn't get to the level of Black Sabbath or Led Zeppelin in America. Well, here you go. This is like 2 weeks after Machine Head's released. And boom, they have to pull the plug on their big North American tour. So obviously, Machine Head, they didn't struggle through that release, and it served them extremely well throughout their career, and they went on to great success. But imagine if they were able to do a full band tour, just keep pushing through this release. Maybe that would have opened some new doors for them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was no secret that they were overworked.
Right. And that's why they kept, part of the reason, that they kept getting hepatitis. It was always like, this guy's got hepatitis, that guy gets hepatitis. I don't know all that many people that just all of a sudden get, boom, knocked out with hepatitis these days. Of course, there were a number of factors that could have contributed to that, but...
Right.
Being supremely overworked is certainly one of them. So that gets cut off about partway through that lazy, and now we're going right into the next segment of the show, and this is a separate video on YouTube, and this is where we start with When a Blind Man Cries. So let's listen to Ian.
I was told that like this is a lot of you speak French, and we've been to France, and unfortunately Phil can speak French, but I can't. So what we're going to do is do something which can be interpreted into any language, and that is basically blues, or the blues, blues, whatever you call it.
La blues, he says.
Le blues.
Blues feminine or masculine? We'll have to ask Ian.
It's not on the album at all, but it's off the B-side.
It's not on the album at all, it's off the B-side. blind man cries. So they're talking about how, you know, we don't, he says Ian speaks French, so I don't know if he means Ian Paice speaks French, and he says that he doesn't. So even with the album having just been released, I'm sure a lot of people in the audience wouldn't be familiar with it, and even fewer would have been familiar with this track. I think I read somewhere that Randy California does like a slide guitar solo on this. I'm just kind of holding down the slide in the background there. And the review says this next number, when a blind man, it says when a blind man comes, sick. So I guess they said it wrong in the John's. When a blind man comes. So they accidentally call it when a blind man comes, and I don't know if that translates into French the same way, but we'll just leave it at that. When a Blind Man Comes is a really beautiful blues telling the story of a blind man. It's definitely the story. Abandoned by his mistress after knowing bliss with her. Okay, this stands so far. Gillan captures the atmosphere of the piece really well and shows that he's truly a great singer, knowing how to use his voice to the maximum effect in any musical genre.
That was a good laugh.
When a blind man comes, it's like the Rolling Stones song, "You Make a Blind Man Come," right? What is it? It says Randy California ends the blues with an excellent solo, helped by a volume pedal. He is finally the surprise of the night, playing soberly and effectively. His playing and personality on stage reminds me of Rayburn Blake, Mashmachon. It's a real tour de force accomplishment by California to fit in a band with whom he rehearsed for only 8 hours with. Knowing the band, we could only admire the guitarist. Listen out for that volume pedal.
Well, I mean, if this is he classifies this as a blues, he fits really well in this song.
Yeah.
If you don't think about it for a minute, it almost sounds like Bolin is playing it.
It almost sounded like he went at the very beginning of the show, like he was using like some sort of echoplex or something, but maybe not. Haven't heard it since. Right now, it almost sounds like there's like an effect on Ian Paice's drums, like a delay, but it's probably just the reverb of wherever they're playing.
Yeah.
The Colossi. You were never crazy about this song, right?
Not the studio version, if I remember correctly, but I'm actually enjoying this. And I mean, there wouldn't really be a live version to go by because, like, we have established that Ritchie wouldn't play it.
Yeah, not until Morse was in the band, or Satriani, but Morse more so. But yeah, it's a song that really lends itself well to. It almost reminds me of like a Mistreated sort of situation, you know, like it's got the dynamics, the builds. You can be on the rocking part, a kind of understated guitar. Interesting that Blackmore would not have wanted to play this, because I think he could have really just let rip live with solos. It's got, like I said, such a similar feel to Mistreated in some ways. It's like Mark II's version of Mistreated. I guess it would be more like.
I thought it was a really good version. Yeah.
Thank you. What we're going to do now is ask you to
What's that all about? He's like, I ask you all to.
What'd he say?
A plate. So here we're going into Space Truck, yeah? We all know how that usually ends. This is an interesting intro into Space Truckin', though. Organ just sounds massive. Now it's kind of gotten like faint, and maybe the mic's pointed towards the ceiling again. I mean, part of it could just be the fact that these tapes are 50 years old. It'd be interesting to see if he did a really good, high-quality transfer of those tapes, because this is put onto a YouTube video, uploaded onto YouTube. I'm playing it for you, and then when I render this audio file, it's going to be compressed again. So it's not exactly, for something of this age and everything, you're not getting the cleanest possible recording of it. But it would be interesting to hear like a uncompressed, straight recording from the reels that he used. See what it really would have sounded like.
Was there any explanation as to why he waited this long to release these?
No, just kind of one thing led to another. Got busy. I don't know. You know, I mean, I guess we all have those projects where you're like, I'll get around to that someday, and then it's like 20 years goes by, and you're like, yeah, I'll do it sometime. And sitting around for 40
who knows? Maybe it could have
years is not the best way to preserve any
could have
audio.
Been well, it could have been just like 2020 slowed everybody down. So it's one of those like, hey, I have this sitting in the vaults.
That's a really good.
I'll just get to that.
I hadn't even thought about that. Maybe it's just like, well, I'm stuck at home. Maybe this would be a good time to finally get that Randy California bootleg out there.
Yeah, who knows?
Almost lose your mic there?
You saw that? I almost knocked my mic over. You saw the panic on my face.
No one would have noticed if I hadn't pulled it out.
You jerk.
So I wonder what it says. It's just that little one-line review that says John Lord had some problems with his organ. I wonder what the problems were.
That it was too awesome.
Exactly. I wish we had video of the policeman dancing during this, or the security guy.
Whoa.
Interesting line from what Robert LaFontaine posts on YouTube is just this sentence. In the video, there are many unreleased gems archives. I don't know what that means, but it's leading me to believe there's maybe video of this too. Oh, you know what maybe he's referring to is just in the video he's posted, like we're looking at right now, these articles. Like the review of the show and all that. So. But all of the if you go onto YouTube and check this out, all of the comments are kind of people talking about like, wow, this is like the Holy Grail and it's a great Christmas gift because it came out just before Christmas. You made my year. All of these great comments about people just not being able to believe, as a this kind of the Holy Grail, like you said, and like they're saying here.
I mean, I would say it lives up to the Holy Grail status. I mean, it's not like... I wouldn't say it's, like I'm, like, blown away, but I mean, is this, like, a great show? Yeah. Like, I'm not disappointed, like, oh, okay, it's like, the sound is so bad you can't make anything out, or...
Well, no,
we picked out some good parts, and,
I mean, it's a great show. It's a really good performance.
You know what I mean?
Better than you would expect. The sound quality is better than you
good
would
performance.
expect.
Yeah.
I think it's just the fact, even if the sound quality were worse, just the fact that it even exists is astonishing.
Right. Right. I just think that for what it is, like we weren't expecting much. Like, oh, if anything from this exists, then it's probably, crappier audio, maybe it was on recorded on an off night, whatever, but I mean, for what we're expecting, I think that it meets expectations for sure.
Like I said, Jorg was kind of postulating that with that first initial release, because at first, a week before all of this, they only released the When a Blind Man Cries. So he was saying, I wonder if he's lobbying to kind of say, here's a sample I have to prove I have it, and get somebody interested in maybe buying it from him to put out an official release. But then a week later, he released the entire show. So, but there's still a possibility, like I said, that I have no idea how that works with a band because it's an unauthorized bootleg, but stranger things would have happened. They could just decide to take this and somebody could buy it from him and release it if they could get the rights and say, here's and have an official release of this with maybe cleaned up audio.
Well, my guess, and then like I said, just a guess, is that it wouldn't happen because there's no money in it.
Definitely not much, yeah.
I mean, what did you say the YouTube video had? What, 3,000 views?
Yeah, I mean, great.
I mean, that's really.
I mean, the only people that I mean, I guess the only people that really have seen this are people that, you know, we linked to it, and people that were linked on other Deep Purple groups on Facebook and things like that. But even with all of that traffic, that's the amount of views that it's gotten. Yeah, I'm sure it wouldn't be worth.
Right, but I mean, that's, you know, that's a gauge of where, you know, the success of you know, how things are successful these days, you know, because you've seen you know, new artists and existing artists, like we were talking about on our last episode, releasing everything and, you know, doing a lot more through online. So it's you know, I mean, and like, again, I'm just, you know, speculating, but I mean, if like 3,000 views on YouTube is like kind of a gauge for how much interest there is in something like this, then I wouldn't see why anybody would pick it up and put money into this expecting to get a return on it, which, as cool as it would be, it wouldn't seem practical for somebody like the record company or an official release, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's,
but
you know,
I could be wrong.
Less than 2 weeks, it's had less than 3,000 views, and how many of those 3,000 would actually purchase an official release of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to us, that's nuts, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, like, I mean, that just goes into, like, if you're into, like, at this point, like, a very successful, but, like, a fringe band, you know, compared to, you know, newer ones. And I mean, you know, that's not taking into account, like, you know, the new Deep Purple album was, like, what was it, like, number 2 or something when it was released on the charts? Or so it was pretty high up, right, for a new release?
Whoosh. Yeah, oh yeah, in some countries it was number 1, so.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, there's no doubt that they're still really successful, but I just remember, like, it makes me think of, like, when I used to go to shows for bands that were already, like, you know, so-called past their prime, you know, like in the 90s, like, you know, you know, if Dio came around or Motorhead, or those bands that I would see in like clubs all the time, it was, oh, I got to get tickets right now, it's going to get sold out. It was like nowhere near sold out, you know, because like that, I didn't know the reality of it. It's just like they weren't near the stadium crowds that they used to get. So it's, so I mean, that kind of like, you know, excitement, you know, for the fan base is like a lot smaller. It doesn't make it any less cool, but.
Like, just as an example, I just pulled this up, but Wolfpack that I mentioned is having one of the songs on our All Fives episode for our New Year special.
Yeah.
They released a video 2 weeks ago, and it's got 220,000 views. You know what I mean? Somebody's in the thick of it and releasing all of it. While this wasn't released on the official Deep Purple channel either, you'd think with just through word of mouth and everything getting out there and how much of a holy grail this was, I'm actually surprised it's not more views.
Well, maybe
maybe for one of our episodes, but
well, maybe our episode will help bring awareness to it.
Maybe. And the second part of the video only has 800 views, so the people that maybe checked out a little bit of the first video didn't quite get any further. So, but
I mean, also this is something where if we, you know, like this is, I wouldn't like, you know, rip this onto my phone and listen to it in my car unless it was like,
right,
you know, the cleaned up version maybe.
I feel that way about a lot of live albums and a lot of live stuff like this. It's more of a collector's item, more of a historical artifact.
Yeah.
But yeah,
something you listen to once or a couple of times and, you know, say, oh great, I listened to it, this is cool.
It's just nice to know that it exists.
It exists and that, like, we heard it.
Yeah, but these people here, thank you for sharing this. This is one of those things that you look for your entire life. So rare. Thank you. So there's definitely people that are really
and I mean
happy about it.
yeah, it's clear that this guy did not release it for any gain, you know, other than, you know, the, you know, maybe the need to get it out there and like have his fellow fans like us hear it. You know, almost like a
great
gift.
that he decided to do that and decided to share it because, you know, I don't know how old this guy is, but if he waited 20, 30 years and just never released this at all, nobody would have ever been able to have a chance. It just would have died that night in Quebec, and it would only live in people's memories.
And I mean, you think like many things could happen with it. Like he has no obligation to release it to anybody. I mean, that could just be his to keep and like, you know, play for people that came to his house, you know, or, you know,
like
to
me,
get it
you'd have to wait till somebody that comes to your house that actually likes Deep Purple, which I'm still waiting for. until you come to visit finally, it's gonna never happen.
But or even so, like, you know, maybe like I don't know, get it authenticated and like try and like sell it for a large sum of money to collectors, like, you know, an auction or something. I don't know, like that's another way that it could have gone. You know?
Oh yeah, sell the actual like the actual reels or the actual original source.
Yeah, right.
It says here in the review, the concert ends with space trucking on a rapid rhythm encore. The encore, Lucille, an old classic, and a guy dancing in front of the stage since the beginning of the concert finally finds himself on stage with Gillan. So unfortunately, as we've heard already from him, that's going to cut off. We're not going to get to hear all of Lucille, but one lucky fan got to dance with Ian Gillan on stage. And it ends with everyone got out of the Colisée with a smile on their lips. So. Thanking everybody for coming. The old fake ending.
The old fake ending.
Yep. The Quebecois want more, Ian. They want more. If Ritchie was there, he might have just said, those Quebecois didn't they weren't a good enough audience. We're not doing an encore.
Sure, Ritchie. Just like, I'm not going back out there for those people.
They didn't work hard enough for
crotchety about it. Yeah, they didn't want it. They didn't sell me.
Just a little more, maybe. Oh. So Randy California is being more generous with his encores. I wonder who that is. Is that Ian Paice?
No, I think that's John Lord.
Is it John Lord? Oh, and it cuts off there, unfortunately.
And that's it, huh?
Yeah, that's it. The Lucille is missing.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's funny. It starts off kind of like, it sounds, he's like, hey, I'm going to say for everyone out there that speaks English, God bless you, guys are great. And it's like, if he just ended it there, it'd be like, wow, what a jerk. But then he brings John Lord on to say something to them in French, which of course they immediately start cheering when they hear him speaking French. Can't quite make out what he's saying, but
it's like, yay, we can understand him.
And for everyone that doesn't speak English, too bad. But yeah,
It bent.
That's great. And it's awesome that, you know, even in under those circumstances that the whole crowd would, you know, they seemed like the whole time they were really engaged and they were loving it. And, you know, it's not like one of those, you know, new Deep Purple shows you might have heard about that happened in Quebec where they, I guess not so much the Quebec one, but you've heard of some of the other ones where that didn't end well, or people didn't appreciate it. They appreciated the fact that they were out there, and it sounds like from what Ian translates here too is, oh, where was it? Well, basically that it seems like the audience wasn't even fully aware that that Ritchie wasn't there. So
yeah, they didn't care. They were just happy to see Deep Purple.
Yeah, I mean, how would you know back then? It's not like they're advertising what's going on. He might have said what happened, but he was speaking in a different language. You're standing far from the stage. I mean, how would you know? I'm sure maybe some of the bigger fans there could tell or knew, but some of the other people just being like, "Oh, they're playing a lot of the songs I really like. This is cool." So that's, you know, if you can get that across to your audience, then what does it matter? You're giving them what they wanted. Pretty incredible piece of history. Incredible that it exists, and huge appreciation. I'm sorry we couldn't connect with Robert LaFontaine, but if anyone's out there listening or can communicate to him or let him know, or if you're listening, Robert, love to chat with you real quick, and if we can, and talk about your experience, because this is it's incredible that this has been shared with the fans, and I had a blast listening to it. Really good stuff.
Yeah, this was great. It was a lot of fun.
When we first started doing the show,
it was cool to hear a different take on it, you know?
Right, yeah, totally. When we first started doing the show, I didn't know how some of these live performances might translate into doing shows for, and let us know what you think. Twitter, Facebook, wherever. What do you think of some of these live performances we've been working in? We've done a couple of bootlegs now and a couple of official releases, but my initial feeling was kind of that they wouldn't work with the show, but it works from the standpoint that I'm having a blast doing it. I hope the listeners feel the same way, but it seems like really fun to kind of see some of these more historic. I'm not saying we would just start doing like week after week of every live show imaginable, and generally wouldn't do a live show after we just did one so recently, but this was one of those rare, like, it's actually in the news sort of things, so we figured we would do it right away while it's still fresh. Fresh after 50 years. And
well, fresh as in it just came out now. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it seems silly to wait 6 months and then cover it when it just came out a couple weeks ago. So but you know, yeah, we'll keep peppering in some of these live performances. There's so many memorable and historic Deep Purple live performances out there that we can work into the show, and we'll continue to do that because it's a lot of fun to do. But
heck yeah.
So let us know what you think, and if we should keep doing some of these live bootlegs, and hopefully I'll do some audio tweaks to this to make sure it's at least listenable. I don't know what the YouTube's going to be like. We'll see on that, but hopefully the audio podcast is a fun listen. So with that, I guess I will see you next week, my friend.
You know it.
And with anyone that's been paying attention already knows what we're going to be covering next week. The cat is out of the bag due to my poorly cut and pasted show notes.
Boo.
Boo. I'm getting booed at the end of the show.
Boo.
Boo, Nick.
I don't know why I'm booing you. Like, you just gave away some info. Like, you know, maybe people want to know. It's a good thing.
I mean, we should tell them every week. Who knows? I prefer much more to torture Rich than to actually let them know what's going on. Now he's gonna know we're not covering Tommy Bolin next week. So damn it. All right. Well, I'll talk to you next week, my friend. And to all of you.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also give us a rating on iTunes to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.